Hello and welcome. My name is Shannon Wallner, and I'll be guiding you through this migration tutorial on taking an Informix 4GL application and migrating it to a Genero application. In this session, what we're going to be talking about first is migration success stories, or at least giving you an idea of what our customers are currently doing in relation to migration. So we'll look at a couple of screenshots of before and after applications of 4GL applications that have been modernized using Genero. Next, we're going to look at phase 1, which is simply a recompile and go. We'll then move on to phase 2, which is really looking at the graphical user interface and determining the best way to redesign that GUI for a graphical environment. And lastly, we'll be looking at what are some of the things in the language that allow us to completely modernize 4GL applications so that you can run them today, tomorrow, into the future, fully modernized in today's world. We'll follow up with some questions and answers, and that will wrap up our time today. Most of the session today will be demonstration. However, we'll be beginning with a little bit of PowerPoint here. So here's an example of a customer who took their existing application, which you can see over here on the right-hand side, a typical 4GL ASCII-based application, and modernized it using Genero. So everything from toolbars to menus to complete mouse control of the application. Here's another example of what an application might look like once migrated, remembering that all of the code that is the functionality, the business logic of the application is preserved. It is in the full migration and update of the user interface and the way in which the program runs in the Windows or Mac or other graphical user interface is the power of Genero. The other thing you'll notice here is there's folder tab options, menu buttons, toolbars, as well as running applications in what we call window container interface or multiple document interface, where we have a main window here and then all other windows opening within that main window. So it gives you an idea of where we're going. Now we're going to drop it down to the stores application, the Informix stores application, and here it is. And we're going to go ahead and spend the session migrating this application, or looking at the application in various stages of migration and determining how we made those changes and what were some of the choices that we had to make at particular iterations throughout the process. So again, what you have here is simply the old 4GL stores application running in an ASCII environment. So the first thing we're going to look at is how do you take your 4GL, recompile it, and go. Within Genero, you can run it in what's called a text user interface, or TUI, and that would be what this would look like. It would represent it just as it would in a 4GL environment, but instead running it in a text user interface. Then we're going to go ahead and run it in a graphical user interface. And here's how the same program comes up. So the screen, the order form screen here, and the order form screen here. Again, nothing, no code has been changed. Everything has just simply been recompiled, and we're running it in a graphical environment. So you can see things like the colors, those attributes have been preserved. You'll notice that the array data down here below has been represented as a screen array, as you would see in a graphical environment here, as well as all of the functionality is triggered by mouse movements and keystrokes. You keep your accelerator keys, but by building menu buttons across the right-hand panel there. Now this would be the default. So what we're going to be looking at is how can we improve upon this application while at the same time really preserving the business logic, the code itself. We want to maximize our investment in the code that's already working and instead focus on the interface, but also what parts of the language might give us some additional features that we wouldn't have with just an ASCII-based application. So here's an example of the stores application updated. Now you can see here that there's what we call a top menu. There are toolbar buttons here, folder tabs. Our screen array has been modified to be a table. You can see here that we have populated what we call a list box or combo box with data from the database, and we have some other actions or buttons that appear depending on what the user is doing. So at this point of looking at some order information, they have the option to add, update, or delete that particular order information. So we're going to talk through how we make some of these changes and how we work within what we call the Genero Studio tool to really be able to start working within a graphical environment more effectively. Now, a fully modernized application here, I'm showing a more modernized version of the Stores application. Again, the same idea being that we preserve the code, but instead now take full advantage of everything that Genero has to offer. So we'll be looking at not just the folder tabs and the toolbars and top menus, but also what we call multiple dialogues. So being able to run two different tables, both interacting differently with different array sets on the same screen. So different parts of the form being managed by different dialogue statements, one with a display, possibly one with a construct, etc. And how we, again, utilize some of these other widgets to best give the best look and feel, while at the same time making the program still just as efficient as it was in a text environment. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump over to demonstration now, and then we will loop back for some questions and answers.